We are constantly bombarded with the message that a highly active sex life is a mandatory pillar of human health, right up there with drinking water and getting enough sleep. But if you strip away the social pressure and look strictly at biology, human survival doesn't actually require it. When that stimulus is removed, the body simply dims down to a calm baseline state. From a physiological standpoint, having sex acts as a massive system-wide trigger. It floods the brain with a heavy dose of neurochemicals and pushes the body through a highly specialized muscular and cardiovascular workout. So we have to ask, what exactly happens to your internal biology when that heavy-duty switch gets flipped to the off position for weeks, months, or even years at a time? The human body is heavily biased toward biological efficiency. When a physical demand disappears, the system doesn't break down or panic. Instead, it recognizes that it no longer needs to expend the calories and resources to maintain peak reproductive readiness, and it starts conserving energy. Going through a dry spell, whether by choice or circumstance, is not a medical pathology. You are simply watching a highly intelligent organism successfully adjust its internal systems to match a new, lower-energy equilibrium. The most immediate shift happens in your brain. Regular physical intimacy acts as a built-in stress relief valve, reliably delivering a potent cocktail of dopamine, endorphins, and oxytocin. When that stops, the brain loses a highly dependable source of chemical soothing. This chemical drop has a highly measurable cardiovascular consequence. Without those regular surges of relaxing hormones, you are statistically more likely to experience higher, sharper blood pressure spikes in response to daily stressors. You might also notice a distinct dip in your sleep quality. Post-coital hormones are designed to physically wind down the nervous system, and removing that natural sedative can leave the brain struggling to transition into a state of deep rest at night. This flowchart illustrates the use it or lose it principle. As inactivity lengthens, the brain detects the lack of stimulation and dials down arousal signals. Look at how the feedback loop stabilizes into a flat baseline. This is a deliberate physiological downregulation. Those early feelings of anxiety, the occasional restless night, and the fading sense of desire are not permanent deficits. They're just temporary friction points while the brain's neurochemical feedback loop resets itself to function on a calmer, lower stimulus setting. While the brain is adjusting, the reproductive hardware is making its own adaptations. Without the regular expectation of intercourse, the body often scales back its production of natural vaginal lubrication. The tissues involved in sex also rely on physical activity to maintain elasticity and blood flow. A prolonged absence of this specific workout can lead to thinning vaginal walls, a physical change that becomes especially prominent for women following menopause. For male hardware, the changes are tied to glandular clearance. Statistical data shows a clear link between highly infrequent ejaculation and a slightly higher risk of developing prostate issues later in life, simply because the gland is being flushed out less often. This bar chart compares immunoglobulin A levels. In a long-term abstinent state, you see a slight decrease compared to a sexually active state. But notice the shift for urinary tract infections. In the abstinent state, that risk metric plummets by up to 80%. Add to that the absolute 100% elimination of acquiring a sexually transmitted infection, plus a sudden surplus of cognitive bandwidth that is no longer tied up in mating behaviors. The biology is highly pragmatic. The body willingly trades away peak reproductive readiness and a minor antibody boost in exchange for absolute protection against local infections and maximum energy conservation. If you ever decide to end a dry spell, the abstinent body hasn't degraded. The loss of lubrication, the tissue changes, the libido drop, these physical adaptations are completely reversible once the physical triggers are reintroduced. Because sex is ultimately just a collection of specific physiological inputs, you don't actually need a partner to maintain your biological baseline. You can manually hack this feedback loop yourself. This side-by-side matrix shows solo masturbation replicates the physiological benefits of partnered sex. You easily check off the pelvic floor workout, prostate clearing, and heavy endorphin release. You can cover the rest with regular gym exercise. A solid cardio session substitutes for the lost immune boost, while stimulating the exact same neurogenesis that protects your memory. And if your brain is craving that missing oxytocin, non-sexual physical intimacy, like hugging a close friend or cuddling a pet, manually triggers the exact same chemical release. People who practice voluntary celibacy,
identify as asexual, or are just navigating a circumstantial dry spell, are existing in a biologically safe and optimal state. Whether you maintain a highly active sex life or go on a decade-long hiatus, your biological baseline remains entirely within your control. A sexless life is a perfectly valid, physiologically sound state of being.